our structure.
It sounds very good. Sounds very novel and noble. But the thing is, but the thing is, at the end of the day, Nigeria, has always shown to challenge a lot of novel ideas. The markets here, while very promising, can also be very challenging. And when we talk of challenging, there's a big challenge, that every company, every country is facing, and that's COVID-19. And it will be interesting to know, Marcel, for you to come into this conversation, and give us a sense of what this will mean for your business and or your industry in Nigeria.
Yeah, I will also add to what John has said previously in the follow-up after I answer your question, to elaborate on how we plan to stay unique and how we can maintain our value proposition, which is providing quality product at affordable prices. Since our slogan actually is quality is for everyone. So I'll touch up on that after answering your question. Let me start with the industry. If we look at Nigeria specifically, we need to first of all understand the construct of the market, right? Consumer goods are mainly purchased through traditional markets, right? Around 80%, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the latest statistics that I'm aware of are around 80% of finished articles and consumer goods are purchased through open markets as opposed to modern trade outlets. And as we can see now with the current COVID pandemic, we have personally felt that directly because all our open market sales have stopped since the open markets have been shut down by the governments. We were actually in the middle of a marketing campaign for product activations in various markets across Lagos for Choquitos and MJs, which we've had to stop and abandon. So with those markets being closed, we see shift, maybe temporary, but the modern trade outlets are still able to operate. So most consumer goods are now being sold through these modern trade outlets, namely Spar, ShopRite, Just Right, just to name a few big guys. So that may accelerate the shift towards modern trade consumption. While saying that, we also need to keep in mind that modern trade prices are generally higher than the open market prices. And with COVID coming in, disposable income for consumers has obviously been affected. So it's going to be an interesting observation on how that will impact the consumer behavior moving forward post COVID-19. Also, e-commerce is an area which could benefit from this pandemic. We know that Nigerian consumers and African consumers in general, it takes a while to gain their trust. Right, so their trust in e-commerce may not yet be at that level as it is in, let's say, Europe or in the US, where buying groceries online is almost common practice nowadays. So that could benefit a lot from this COVID situation. Also, we will be expecting that the HoReCa sales channels will suffer greatly for us in Nigeria. Because eating out in restaurants and hotel occupancy rates, let's say, will significantly have dropped during this period, and we will need to see if that negative sentiment carries on for a while. So that's going to be one of our observations, and so we expect a negative impact on that. Then on a positive side, so I believe that Pan-African trade will benefit from this because we see now the effect of such a, let's say, a global lockdown, right? We see that the products that are being imported to Africa have suffered massively. There's very high logistics costs involved, a lack of containers available. So the let's say reliability of the consumer goods on importation may maybe reduced. I think that we're going to see a strong shift towards Pan-African trade. And with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, I think that we have now a catalyst in place to promote this. Also with, no duties for cross-border trade, etc. For the countries that have signed up on the Free Continental Trade Agreement. So that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to witness, albeit we need to keep in mind that COVID-19, what the effects of that will be on protectionism. I feel that countries in Africa are now first going to look at how they can support themselves. So this protectionist mindset might slow that development down a little bit. But I mean, in the medium to long term, Pan-African trade is definitely the way to go. Then, we can see also now the effects economically of COVID-19. We have the Nigerian naira, for example, has devalued against the US dollar. I believe, you can correct me if it's wrong, I think the bank rates are now at around 410 to the dollar. So, that automatically means that importation of products will become more expensive. Consumer goods will become more expensive because the salaries in Nigeria won't have been, let's say, adapted to that devaluation, right? So imported consumer products will become even more of a luxury, even more so than what they already are now. So that's definitely something that will be a negative impact on our export business model as it stands currently. So yeah, I think that answers the question.
Okay, yeah, that's quite comprehensive. So leading me to my last question, and no less important, and that is, what is Jobeco seeking to do going forward now, considering your calculus before COVID-19, and now that COVID-19 obviously has come in to make things more interesting. So how do you see things going forward?
Yeah,
how are you going to go forward? Sorry.
Yeah, so John had previously touched on us being innovative and focusing on the consumer in Nigeria, let's say, or in Africa, in Greater Africa, that we will always keep that consumer at heart, and the consumer's interest at heart. So I believe that we're going to continue being creative and innovative in our product developments and tailor those to the consumer demands of the population. So that's one element that we will continue pushing through. Then I have already mentioned that our slogan is quality is for everyone. And we can all see that the importation of products is becoming more expensive in Nigeria, and the governments are subsidizing local manufacturing quite heavily now. So that business construct in itself is something that we need to think about. And pre-COVID-19, we already had medium-term plans to set up our own factory in Nigeria for the main selling SKUs, which would be our culinary range, and which include, let's say, mayonnaise, ketchup, and dressings, and so on and so forth, right? So that's something that we've always had as a medium-term goal, to move more of our value chain to Nigeria itself, which in effect would allow us to maintain our value proposition, which is to provide high-quality food products at affordable pricing. The affordable pricing element is becoming increasingly difficult with the export model. So that's something that we are potentially pulling forward slightly, as opposed to our ideas pre-COVID-19. That being said, that's for the main selling SKUs, which are also, let's say, strongly incentivized to be produced locally and are easier to produce locally from a raw material and from a machinery and from an infrastructural level. But we will maintain our business model of export to Nigeria with the more niche products, such as chocolate spreads, which are of lower volume than, let's say, the staple items such as mayonnaise and so on. So for the niche products in our product offering, we will maintain that import business model. But in the medium term, we do plan to set up, a manufacturing base in Nigeria to keep our value proposition alive.